Good afternoon, YouTubers, friends, followers, likers of the page and Blues Boy Kings band, and Show That Pedal, and on eBay, Marshall Amp Collector, on Facebook, Blues in the Midlands as well. So just some of the little things that I've got on the go. But today what I wanted to do is tackle the age-old problem of how much do you have to spend on gear to get a great sound, and does everything have to be top-notch, or can you get away with cutting corners? Because I've often used like a DSL amp, and people say, no, you don't want to be using DSL amps because you know, they're not as good as JCM 800s and things like that. And I've got a couple of JCM 900s, you know, and the odd Marshall snob will say, oh, you don't want to be using 900s, they're too fizzy, you know. And then, well, can't you just EQ that out? Can't you just like don't use G12 T75s, you know, use vintage 30s or greenbacks or something like that. So today's video is about using something less expensive to try and achieve a certain tone. Of course, I should talk about the other gear as well that I'm using either side of the amp, but today, so it's about a cheap amp, and it's Marshall's Origin 50, made in Vietnam. It's about 5 years old. And I don't know if you can even buy them new anymore, so I got this one second hand. And but it's about, will it nail the AC/DC tone? And obviously got a Gibson SG and a very old Marshall cabinet, which has been, unfortunately, it's been re-Tolexed and reupholstered throughout, but thankfully it's the original wood and it's the original speakers as well from about 1966-67. So these are 20-watt greenbacks, pre-rollers, and so yeah, fine guitar, fine speakers. Most people would say, well, that's going to sound good then, regardless of the amp. But you know, so can the amp live in this company? That's the thing. Can you get like a 350 quid amp and it sound like AC/DC? So it all depends, of course, on your fingers and how you set it up. I've got the gain on full. I've got the boost pedal down there on the floor, which is not engaged at the moment. It's plugged in, but it's not on the boost setting. Master's on 5 or 12 o'clock. Presence is rolled off. Treble's on 6. Take that down to 5, and then the middle's on 7. And the bass is on 4. This tilt function takes it between like a high treble input sort of sound or a normal input sound, a la the old Marshalls, like that one up there. So there we are, and quite simply, can it sound like AC/DC? boost pedal then, see what that does. So it would seem that the answer is yes, it'll do a great AC/DC tone. It's also great for just like blues and blues rock, that sort of thing. I suppose AC/DC really are blues rock. A lot of people say that they're heavy rock, or you know, they're not usually referred to as anything heavier than heavy rock, I don't suppose, by people who know what they're talking about. But you know, also the great sort of sound for, like, you know, Terry Kath sort of playing, also Derek Trucks, you know, and I can't really think of any other SG players. Obviously Jimmy played in SG once or twice, Clapton did during Cream. That's the Origin 50, and I've actually had it set on the mid volume or attenuation setting, which is supposedly around about 10 watts, but sounds incredible to me. I suppose the guitar's got something to do with it, and also the really nice vintage speakers that I mentioned, but no, the amp is you would just not know if you recorded that in a studio, even at 10 watts. It makes a great amp for that reason alone, actually. To have it on its 50 watt setting, with the gain on full and the master on half, would be stupidly loud. as for its 1 watt setting, or whatever it is, I assume it's a 1 watt setting. That's pretty loud. You could record with that. You could record with that. You could certainly record with 10 watts. Very loud, that at 10 watts. So I'll take the master volume down a couple and put it on its 50 watt setting. No, prefers 10 watts. Damage the speakers, so they should be well capable of handling 80 watts, of course, in total, but you don't know what somebody's done to them before. Anyway, I think that's probably just about enough, and I think that's demonstrated quite clearly that that's the Origin 50. Hopefully you can appreciate that and some of the riffs and influences in my playing. Paul Kossoff, Clapton, Peter Green, you know, that sort of thing. And it is nice to have good gear, but I think it's more important to get to know the gear that you've got and stick with it. I mean, I'm a fine one for saying that because I'm a Marshall amp collector, and you know, unless I've got 1,000 watt super leads and a few vintage JTM 45s, I don't suppose I'll ever be happy. But at the same time, you know, there is a very strong argument, and I'm completely on board with it, which is just have the gear that you've got, you know, and love that gear that you've got and learn how to use it properly. And like this amp here, it'll sound fantastic. You know, recording levels on 10 watts, rehearsals at 10 watts, go to a gig 50 watts all day long, and great, you know. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and got something out of it. And yeah, I'll demo another couple of guitars with it, see if it does the Alvin Lee sound with a 335, all that sort of thing. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Show That Pedal. Cheers.